Em Rusciano and Michael Lucas.
If a girl looks like me, I'll go for her. I mean, come on. You've got to respect that.
This is Emsolation.
For me, it was just blank rejection, no sex.
I don't think parents congratulate kids when they come out every time. I know I will if that happens here.
That's your dream job. Sit at home with a microphone.
Judging hot people.
You're in Emsolation.
Hello, darling one. How are you? Your pal Em here. I'm going to keep the intro very brief because I've just finished recording with Michael Lucas and we did go for nearly an hour. We really sometimes forget the microphones are in front of us and we're just on the phone. Today we talk about a show we've both become a little bit obsessed with, Indian matchmaking, but also there's a lot of, it's quite problematic, like everything we bring to this podcast. So we talk about that. Taylor Swift dropped a surprise album and we also talk about the rise of the term Karen, referring to middle-aged white women behaving badly. Obviously, you've all heard about the woman from Bunnings who refused to wear a mask. She knew Bunnings had a policy instituted that you must wear a mask, come to the store because they're wonderful human beings. She deliberately didn't wear one, deliberately filmed it. Then she went to a post office and harassed someone else and filmed it. So she was really on a roll and has received backlash, rightly so, and been called a Karen. But we do worry for all the nice Karens out there. And also there isn't a male equivalent. And believe me, me. Believe you me. There's a lot of white middle-aged men behaving badly. There's a lot of men behaving badly. I feel like they need a name too. Why don't we have a name for them? We talk about that. I also just want to let you know that I'm aware that I am in Victoria and a lot of you are not. So I do try to find a balance between talking about how grim it is here and not boring the rest of the country with what's going on. So to my Melburnians and out of Victorians who are in the lockdown, I'm glad to see a lot of you out there wearing the masks. It's the middle of winter. We're really going through it. We had 532 cases today, which is hopefully the peak. And remember, the numbers are kind of lagging. So these are numbers from a few days ago before masks were mandatory. And in New York, after they made masks mandatory, it took 2 months for there to be a real significant drop in numbers. So I'm hoping by September, things turn around. And for the rest of the country, I see the things from Perth. I got my friend Janelle in Perth and it's hard to see. I am thinking about having to mute anyone who's not from Melbourne on my feed because it does remind me of how I could be outside doing outsidey things. But yeah, I'm thinking all of you guys who are in Melbourne with me and in Victoria, we're all doing our best and go gently and go easy on yourself. It is exhausting. It's weirdly exhausting not being able to do things, isn't it? I think it's all the emotional overthinking that goes on. Here I was saying I wasn't going to talk for long and, as usual, crapping on. But to everyone else around the country, good on you. I'm totally jealous. Please enjoy life for me. And it's hard to see myself doing a tour. Do you think they'll let me in as a Victorian? Do you think next year when I want to try and come to Perth or Adelaide to do a show, will they let me through in whichever giant appendage I've decided to blow up for next year's tour? That's the other thing. You guys just might go nuts. Sorry, none shall pass. Oh, well, only time will tell. Thank you again so much for choosing Emsolation as your pod of choice. I will remind you that to help us move up the charts, you need to subscribe, you need to leave a nice review. I suggest 5 stars. And also recommend us to your friends. A lot of people are kind of scared of podcasts, and I know that we're a lot of your first podcast, which is great. Just remind people that they're free, that they get, this unfiltered, not many ads version of entertaining people. So once you finish listening to the pod today, can you just share it? Bring a friend. It's how we move up the charts, by downloads. Each month we get a download report. They release the charts and we're doing pretty well. Each month we go up in the charts, which is great. So every time you listen, that counts toward Michael and I doing well. Just remember that. You're doing your bit. Just like if you're in Melbourne, don't be a mask hole, wear a mask. I didn't invent mask hole. That is out there on a meme. I don't know who invented it, but they're a genius. All right, I'm going to get out of your ears, going to bring Michael in. Lots to get to. Play the music.
Em Rusciano and Michael Lucas. This is Emsolation.
I was under instruction actually to watch a certain show by this man. I don't know why I talk about you like it's a new co-host every week.
The mystery unveiling.
I know. Every time I bring me? And it's like, who could it be? Who is it? Who is it? Who is it? Who is it? Ah, it's Michael.
One day you could sub in someone else. It
No
probably
way.
work.
Oh, my God. There would be 20,000 people in complete uproar if you weren't here. Honestly, people are very emotionally attached to you. I have to tell you right now. Oh, shit, I've lost my coffee. Wait. Oh, there it is. It's above my head. So we've got lots to talk about today. We've got to talk about Bunnings Karen, who I've just watched the video and I'm ashamed to be a white woman. And we need to talk about Taylor Swift's surprise album, which I love that she did that. It's inspired me to do a surprise show. But first of all, we want to talk about Indian Matchmaker.
Matchmaking.
Oh, Indian Matchmaking. Oh, I thought it was called Indian Matchmaker, just
Might as well
referring
be.
to no, to Simi. To
Oh,
Auntie
yeah.
Simi.
Simmer.
Is it Simmer?
Yeah.
Oh, it is. Simmer Tapu. Oh, I can't. Taparia.
Where-
Simmer. Auntie Simmer. Let's call her that, Auntie. You said to me, you got to watch it, you got to watch it. And I said, look, I've been circling it. But in my heart, I worried that it would be problematic.
Oh, it is. Well and truly problematic and strangely riveting at times. It's absolutely dominated my 5 bedrooms writer's room because we have in our writer's room this amazing writer, Matilda Gupta, who is a young Indian Australian woman who was on the dating scene herself.
Oh, wow.
And she can't stop watching it, and is torn between thinking it represents everything terrible about the kind of caste system and prejudice over there, but also kind of strangely wanting Simmer to come and matchmake her. She's completely torn. And I feel that same tension watching it.
Oh my goodness! I'm so glad. I was really interested to hear from an Indian Australian. I do know that you have some Indian Australians in the cast also and in the writers' room, because you strive very hard to have a diverse workplace, and I'm very proud of you, and you always have, and that should be noted. So that's how I felt as well, being a non-Indian Australian watching it. So I can only imagine how triggering it is. But basically, to explain the show, Simmer is Mumbai's top matchmaker, as she announces every time she walks into a room. And I love how she always says, "I'm Simmer from Mumbai." Like that's her opening line. So straight away she's placing herself, in a hierarchy.
Yep.
And basically, wealthy families hire her to match with other wealthy families. It's a family match, as they keep saying. It's not just a match of two people. It's also two families coming together. And then also she goes to America to match up Indian American women as well.
And men. I'd be intrigued to know how much of her American businesses was just for Netflix and how much of it happens all the time.
I know. Because the stuff that goes on in Mumbai is much more traditional.
Yeah.
And then in America, the women are allowed to have opinions and be lawyers, because one of the women is a lawyer. And then she announces she's a lawyer, and then you switch back to Simmer and she says, oh, men are scared of lawyers.
Yeah. Well, and that's Aparna, who is riveting. Her as a I was going to say a contestant in this show. She's not a contestant. As a subject for the show, she's really fascinating. Her approach to these dates is...
Oh my God. We need to talk about she's a oh God, what's her name? I've got to look up the
Aparna.
contestant. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, has an intensely close relationship with her mother, who looks exactly like her. And basically everyone on the date is guilty until proven innocent. And she, her level of shooting someone down really early on, even when she meets another lawyer and the lawyer says, oh, I really enjoyed my job, she'll just look at me and go, that's weird. Why would you say that?
I know. And he says to her, do you not like being a lawyer? And she says, not particularly.
Yeah.
And then she says, I don't like funny people.
Oh, that's right. She doesn't like comedy. I hate comedy. You know that.
You know how I hate comedy.
She doesn't like the beach. I love that one as well. I hate the beach.
Oh my God. I hate the beach. I like the ocean, but I hate the beach.
Such a distinction.
Why would I want to spend 10 days on a beach? What's wrong in my life that I need to relax for 10 days?
It was incredible.
And then she walks out of the date and she's like, yeah, I think that went well. And he's just back packing. He has literally left the date and has gone to pack his suitcase in which this incredibly immaculate Indian American lawyer claims that he's very kind of messy and thinks that she would find traveling with him a nightmare. And then that they very cleverly pan to his immaculately packed suitcase, color coordinated.
She goes into every date with the energy of a bad cop in an interrogation. It's insane. And yet she does it with so much assurance, as though she is totally believing that she's going to be the hero of this particular story. It's riveting.
And then her mum and Sima, they keep flashing back to Sima. She's like, the mother is very negative. I feel negative vibes coming from the mother, and they do, and they look exactly the same. I love that the younger sister or the older sister has just been married off to a white American guy, and there's been no intervention there. The mother clearly has a favourite, and the mother also says at the start, I told them when we come to America they must get 3 degrees and nothing below an A, and they never questioned that. And now I have a lawyer. I was like, okay, that's interesting. So then also we meet Nadia, who I took a big shining to. She was beautiful, wonderful. She puts on weddings. She's a wedding planner, but also has a Bollywood dance class.
She's
business.
Pretty much, if J-Lo were Indian, J-Lo would play her in a movie because of the event, but she's literally a wedding planner.
She is, and she's stunning.
Beautiful.
And lovely. And, oh, God, she goes through some hell. Jesus.
She's from Guyana, which, even though she's of Indian heritage, she's not, her family doesn't, for at least generations back, her family doesn't come from India. They were relocated to Guyana. And so because of that, that's very problematic in terms of dating, because there's, as she says, as the matchmaker says, just point blank, the Guyanese, it's going to be a problem.
I know.
That's what's deeply troubling about this.
Correct.
That's
where we get to.
Oh, man, the caste system. And it is basically, this whole system is set up so that basically you can maintain the power structure and the caste never have intermarriage or anything like that, but the power is contained. And so if you're a Guyanese, as Nadia is, then,
that's low. You've left India. You're not even there.
And what freaks me out is they're so frank about that, and about occasionally saying things like, I want fair-skinned and things like that, can you imagine what it must be like if there weren't Netflix cameras trained on them? I mean, how brutal would they be in terms of their racism or casteism?
And that's the thing. Like, if you're an Indian woman who's, say, under 5 foot, dark-skinned and not thin, then they paint the prospects for you as very bleak. That would be extremely triggering for Indian women watching this. And also, it is this weird normalizing of kind of regressive standards that Indian women are forced to live up to, and they're just reduced to, are you a suitable wife? All those things. And I didn't even realize how strong that Hindu system of hierarchy is. I didn't understand that. I had no concept that it's very staunch over there. And if there's cross-caste marriages, you can get killed. I didn't realise.
I think we have this perception that, India's undergone so much change recently in terms of industry and everything like that, and you imagine that perhaps so many of these traditions have sort of moved on as the country's got more westernised, but they're still trenchantly there in all sorts of disturbing ways.
But the thing is, the good thing about this show is that it's shone a light on it for me. I didn't realise, and then I've just spent the night furiously researching and Googling the caste system and how hectic it is. And because they were throwing out things like, light-skinned is better, good family is better. And Jill and I are looking at each other going, is this allowed on the telly? It's 2020.
But do you think, is the show, the show presents all of that, but do you think the show's sort of critical enough of that?
Because no, it's not critical at all.
At a certain point, you just, it's presented kind of like a conventional dating show. At a certain point, you just accept it and then kind of want people to, want some of the dates to work out.
Yeah, and that's the problem. If you want to enjoy it as a dating show, you do have to turn a blind eye.
And I do find it is I did find it a particularly enjoyable dating show because the contestants, I kept saying it, the people featured weren't like people that go on The Bachelor or The Bachelorette.
No.
There were, some of them were, really not the kinds of people you normally see on dating shows.
They were normal people.
Exactly right. And often it was just so apparent in terms of the way they navigated these situations why they were struggling to get into a relationship. And that's also the interesting thing. Married at First Sight, of course, is another big reality show that explores, we have all this idealism about meeting people, falling in love and meeting people and marrying. But, at the end of the day, is the secret to a long-lasting marriage love at first sight, or is it about that you're you're matched with someone and you have to make it work. And I think ideally it's a combination of both.
But I mean, if you strip it right back, the way Simma does it, it makes sense.
Oh,
I mean,
totally.
Take aside the inherent racism and the terrible structural everything. But, I mean, she has the biodata, which is a very comprehensive 2-sheet document with a nice picture, which she's made sure is accurate. She's eyeballed the person.
Mm-hmm.
So there's none of this dating app business where people can put filters on. She's very specifically goes and looks at the person. Then, they've got where they studied, what their likes are. Like it's eHarmony, but with kind of this charming, slightly disturbing Indian woman fronting it up. And the matches, she says, are often very good. But then they also kind of intersperse it with chatting with very elderly Indian couples who were matched, not in a love match, but in an arranged match.
Yeah.
And they're all like together, one woman just says, he just stopped speaking 20 years ago and I just solved the arguments with myself. And part of me, who has been with my husband 20 years in a month, gets that.
Part of you thinks that's a strategy you and Scott should maybe explore. He stops speaking, you make all the decisions.
Well, I think we have just naturally found ourselves there. I do sometimes find myself arguing in circles while Scott sits there kind of looking half sleepy and half confused.
And how did you go with Prathuman, who was the jeweler, who also made the small
Tiny doll's clothes, has an immaculate wardrobe.
Very beautiful.
Wears Gucci loafers with no socks. Keeps referring to himself as a creative. I'm a creative. Does love, like we said, to sew tiny dolls' clothes.
150 women all rejected. Why?
Why has he rejected these 150 beautiful, perfectly selected for him women? No one knows why. And who are we to say why? But I have a fairly good idea what could help Simma. I think perhaps she's looking in the wrong area. But who are we again to say why?
Well
He's
done
immaculate.
you for getting out that sentence quite diplomatically, as no doubt the gaydar in your mind screeches a gale force alarm. No, I'm not saying anything.
We don't want to even talk about the gaydar. We just want to say he is a tall, very attractive, immaculate man who loves making dolls' clothes, is a jeweler, has a wardrobe with a lock on it because he loves his clothing so much that is set out like a Neiman Marcus store, and loves making intricate cocktails and amuse-bouches. Who are we to cast suspicions on anything about his anything? But
certainly not I, not you.
I loved him so much. He was so lovely. But God, 150 women he's rejected.
And the ones we saw were so beautiful. I mean, she never explicitly says you have to match people on like an equal plane of attractiveness, but then clearly when you see the matches, that's exactly what's happening. She's doing a little calculation. And, I don't want to be brutal about it, but if someone's a C-, they're getting matched with a C-. That tends to be what happens.
But she even says that. I'll give her a 98 out of 100. So I've got to go find another 98. Oh my God. So yes, watch it. But again, as we've talked about, hold it in two places in your heart and mind. Yes, it's a dating show designed for our escapism and entertainment, but also very problematic in terms of setting the women of India back many centuries and displaying the caste Hindu system of hierarchy and the unacceptable normalising of regressive standards.
Watch it with the same split focus that you have to watch every single thing that we talk about on this show, because it's like moths to the flame. We can't stop watching the most problematic things.
I don't know what it is, but I want everyone to know, as I'm watching it, I do feel uncomfortable. Like I'm not sitting there pushing away that stuff. But I do want to say this show did draw my attention to it, so now I'm educated, and I do wish the show had have been critical of the system in place. Do you know what I mean? Like I do wish that had happened, because I worry that a lot of white people are watching this show and not understanding that it's problematic and just accepting it, therefore reinforcing that normalisation, that what's happening to Indian women. Do you know what I mean? I don't know that they're deep diving at 1 a.m. as I did.
No, they're probably just enjoying it, in the way that they enjoy all the other terrible dating shows, which, let's face it, it's pretty standard for a dating show to reinforce some of the worst aspects about society. And racism crackles through most dating shows, whether they, intend it to or not. I mean, The Bachelor is not going to win any particular prizes for diversity, at least in this country.
It is not. Or is it going to win any prizes for progressive standards for women? Because I had to stop watching Bachelor in Paradise because about 5 minutes in, one of the contestants announced he was eating pineapple to make his jizz taste nice for the ladies. So, it's 2020, guys. So that's where I'm at. Moving on. Oh, I watched the Bunnings from Karen video this morning.
From Karen.
Bunnings from Karen. Did you hear that? Karen from Bunnings. Let's play a little bit of Karen from Bunnings. This woman has walked into a Bunnings store, sans mask. She's got her camera ready to film because she knows there's going to be some kind of confrontation because Bunnings rightly announced anyone not wearing a mask will not be allowed access to their store. So she has filmed herself without a mask, knowing full well what's coming. Let's have a listen to Karen.
Sarah, I'm just asking if you've got a mask.
Well, it's clear I don't. And you are not authorised to ask me or question me about it.
Would you like to speak to the manager?
Sure.
We need a medical certificate if you guys aren't wearing a mask.
I actually don't need a medical certificate if you refer to the
please stop
DH.
filming me?
No, I'm allowed to do this. And you're discriminating
I'm not
against me.
discrimination. We're all just trying to all be in this together.
And you're not authorised by the Australian government to even question me about it.
It's a condition of entry of our store as a...
Then that's discrimination, and I can have you sued personally for discriminating against me as a woman.
We're not discriminating against anyone.
You
it's
are.
A condition of entry to all Bunnings stores.
It's
You're
not.
required to wear a mask.
It's an unlawful condition of entry.
Yep.
Therefore, that exposes you personally and Bunnings to being sued for discrimination because it is in breach of the 1948 Charter of Human Rights to discriminate against men and women. I don't even have to have this conversation with you because you're not authorised by the Australian government to even question me.
As I said, it's just a condition of entry to all
I don't
Bunnings
care.
stores
It doesn't
as a
apply
state.
to me.
It applies to every single
It does
person who
not.
walks through the doors. Please stop recording me now.
I'm not going to stop recording you.
No worries.
It is my right as a living woman to do whatever I want.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, as a woman, as a human woman.
It's so painful to watch. It took me a couple of goes before I could get right to the end of that because every moment of it was like nails down a blackboard. It was hideous. And those staff members really were pretty much deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, incredible.
Part of me just wants to go to Bunnings to work there to take on any anti-masker. Do you know what I mean? Like I wanted to have a go at her. And then she went to a post office and did the same thing to some poor guy who doesn't get paid enough to deal with her bullshit. So she's going out deliberately looking for confrontation over the masks.
Oh, yeah.
This whole situation is so baffling to me. I still don't understand. And there's this shameful from my area, neck of the woods. There's a girl who tried to jump the border. She's an anti-masker also. The girl in the Akubra hat, the young girl who wanted to. She's from where I live. My daughter serves her at the deli.
Oh, no.
Yeah. The one who tried to cross the border, but she did, and she was gloating about how no one checked her and how it's unlawful. She's also an anti-masker. Yes.
Oh, no. Oh, God. Even the fact that we have the phrase anti-masker.
Oh, there's mask hole. There's all sorts of terms coming out now. I know the anti-maskers. Well, I mean, anti-vaxxer, anti-masker, I think you can just exchange them. I feel like the anti-maskers are out. The anti-vaxxers are outing themselves via no mask. I think that's what's going on. But why do you – I mean, you're always very good. I'm a bit more black and white than you. Generally, I struggle.
You're like me, just with the volume turned up a lot.
I don't understand why people won't wear the masks. Please explain it to me so I can see the other side because I'm struggling.
Oh, God. I mean, it's this ethos of personal freedom. And as she keeps pulling out the 1948 Bill of Human Rights.
It is in breach of the 1948 Charter of Human Rights to discriminate against men and women.
I'm pretty sure, I mean, we can't contact the people that fought and drew up the Bill of Human Rights, but I don't think they were imagining a situation in suburban Bunnings in Melbourne when someone was demanding to be served mask-free in a pandemic.
But also the insistence that they were discriminating against her as a woman, I'm like, mate, you didn't have the mask on your vagina. I don't understand. How has your gender got anything to do with this?
I know. It's just this ethos of personal freedom. It's the same. It's all connected to me in the same way that I cannot understand why people are so desperate to hold on to their guns in the United States when it's so clearly bad for the whole society. But there's this sense that I don't know, your right to do whatever you want, regardless of the effect on other people, is just sort of enshrined. And it defies understanding as far as I'm concerned, because it's so clear that mask wearing is for the greater good, and it's such a minor thing. It's such a minor thing, and we accept so many other things. We accept that we have to put our seatbelts on. We accept all sorts of public safety measures. Why?
We accept that we have to wear pants. Like, it's just a thing we do. We pop on some pants when we head out. We may not want to, but that's just what we do. But the other argument that's bewildering to me is, okay, well, if I have to wear a mask, then, the government should have to pay for it. And I've seen a lot of women say, yeah, well, we've been trying that with tampons and pads for many years, but, good luck with that.
Oh, yeah. And so this is an emergency measure that we've put in place. What are we going to do? Set up some sort of system that you invoice the government, get all the masks out, just grab something, to convert a T-shirt, convert a sock. There's 80 gazillion online videos that will show you what you need to do.
But I just think people don't need to look at this as an attack on their personal freedom. They need to look at this as an act of love for people who are immunocompromised. Like 10 people died in the last 24 hours in Melbourne. 10 people. So that is 10 funerals that now families are having to plan. This is a one small act of love for people who are immunocompromised, for the elderly, for anyone in society that if they get coronavirus, it's not just a mild cold. It is life or death. And I just think if you are saying, I don't care about someone's life, you're a fucking asshole. You just need to pop the mask on. That's it. And that's such a small act to say I care about other people and I'm remembering my humanity. I don't understand.
It also helps to, when you go outside and you see everyone wearing masks, it's also, apart from being a good, just practical safety measure, it also reminds you that, because it's so easy, this, it's such an insidious disease, this one, and it's so easy to let things slip when you're out at the supermarket or something like that, and just seeing the visual of everyone wearing masks sort of reminds you, keep to yourself, don't crash into other people or anything like that. So even on that basis is worth having. It's just so depressing.
It's the smallest thing. And I do want to say I believe it is the minority, truly.
Totally.
Because when I'm out, we went to do the food shop yesterday and 9 out of 10. And anyone who wasn't wearing a mask, I was looking at very severely. And I do feel like we need some kind of badge for people who have medical certificates. I mean, I don't want to single them out, but some kind of hand signal, a gesture, a hat, I don't know. Because I know there are some people who genuinely can't wear the masks, which is fine. But I do look very closely at people not wearing a mask, and I can't help but judge. I do judge. I'm putting my hand up and I'm saying it. I will judge you if I see you out in public not wearing a mask, but just do it.
Just do it.
Sake. If you're listening now and you're in Melbourne and you're not wearing a mask, you can't be friends with Michael and I. I'm sorry, you're out. You can't be our friend anymore.
In tandem with this, though, I'm also feeling conflicted about the fact that we're calling this woman Karen, which...
yes. I mean, why is that? Tell me.
Well, Karen's really risen up as this term, and I do feel terrible for the real life Karens of the world. My mum's best friend, Karen Reid. Sorry, Karen.
I've got a lovely friend, Karen Weaver. We call her Kaz Dog, though, so it's not too bad. But yeah, there are some lovely
She may need
Karen
to get her name officially changed.
Do you think that's what's going to happen?
Because
it would be hard to ring up. Say you genuinely have to ring Telstra because your phone's on the fritz, and they're like, "What's your first name?" Like, are Karens now having to? Are any Karens out there listening? Please contact us. Are you being discriminated against now because your name's Karen?
Oh, and typically they are of the baby boomer generation.
Oh, yes.
But not all. Like a friend of mine, Karen Pastorius, is this amazing actress, and she's just landed the starring role in this big Russell Crowe thriller, Unhinged. And I feel like, oh, God, she's rising to fame, but her name's Karen. Is this what the hell? What's going to... And also, I'm a little bit like a dickhead's a dickhead no matter what gender. Yeah. And that woman, it's obviously not just white women of a certain age that are behaving that way. And so there's part of me makes it feels a little bit uncomfortable that Karen, is obviously completely gendered. It's referring to a white woman. And in that particular case, she deserves the scorn, but it's not. I was going to say it's not necessarily the fact that she's a woman, although she did keep pointing that out again and again.
It is my right as a living woman.
She's a woman, guys. She's a woman, human woman, in case you were wondering if she was an alien. She's a human woman. and this is infringing upon her rights, as stated in the 1943 Human Rights Charter. But what's the male equivalent
Well,
to Karen?
that's the issue here, I think.
But what is the name? What's the name?
There isn't one.
Russell? Robert?
No, they're like many things. There's hardly. It's like there's no male equivalent of slut. I mean, it's
So
not
true.
really. I mean, there's certainly not there's not one that you be condemned, for. And I do understand in some ways. I think Karen as an idea, or like the kind of personality of Karen, is sort of shining a light on somehow there's this sense that white men are the source of all evil and white women are comparatively more liberal and tolerant and everything like that, which is probably, frankly, true. Karen has risen up because, particularly a lot of people of colour have talked about the sort of insidious nature that prejudice presents itself in women. The thing that's tricky about it is you see Karen as an insult has been adopted by a whole lot of people that are also seeking to say, shut up, lady. And in this case, we're 100% agreeing with them, but it's one of those terms that, I don't know, she's just a dickhead through and through as far as I'm concerned.
I need to write a song. Everything is problematic. God. I hadn't actually thought about how Karen is very gendered. All right, fine. Before you go, I text you fervently on Thursday night because Taylor Swift announced she was dropping a surprise album, Folklore.
What a moment. What a moment. Made my
Very
night.
very unlike her because she does like a build-up.
Can I just say, you texted me, and then it took me a while before I gathered myself, saw the message and checked. And then by the time I checked, 14 minutes had passed since she posted it. What are you? Do you get some sort of alert when
Yes.
Taylor does something?
Yes, I do. But what was really interesting for me was the timing. So Kanye West had been spruiking that he was dropping his album on the Friday. And then she's all of a sudden announced on the Thursday night that hers is coming out. So again, the Taylor-Kanye situation, I find it fascinating. Kanye's album was not forthcoming, which is not surprising to anyone. Some are even doubting if he's even written one. But Taylor certainly was there in all its beautiful, nostalgic, melancholy, longing.
It was a real gear shift for Taylor.
It really was, and it needed to happen. And while it still feels a little contrived, as so much of her persona does,
Right,
I like
yes.
it. Like for Taylor, for me, I have a very complicated relationship with Taylor Swift because I watched her documentary and again, it felt very contrived, but I also saw her. I genuinely saw her as a very complicated, very talented, very damaged person who got very famous at 16 and kind of got stuck in time, as has happened with Britney, as has happened with Michael Jackson. You become super famous at a time and then you tend to get frozen there. And I think she's been trying to shake that with all her different incarnations, and every move has been very calculated, like Madonna. It's a new theme, and she embraces it. But I think when you do that, when Madonna does a new incarnation, she always maintains her Madonna-ness. The pull-through is always, who she is as a person. But I think with Taylor, every reinvention, she loses herself a little bit more.
I was a bit troubled. Like last album, the Lover album, she came out with that first single about felt like 2 years before the album came out.
One of you.
Yeah, me
video.
with an exclamation mark. And it even had this chant bit in the middle of that was like, hey kids, spelling is fun. And it's like, mate, you're 30 now.
Yeah.
And it felt like and I totally get it. It was like she wanted another Shake It Off. She just desperately wanted it. And I totally understand if I were her, I would want another one of those too, because that song is going to be played at weddings for the rest of our lives. No question. But it felt too juvenile for the age that she's at. And so what I love about this is that it feels like she's speaking from where she's at now. She's an adult. She's an adult. She's a mature woman who's had heart. I mean, I know she always sings about heartbreaks, but it's always had that sort of Dear Diary kind of slightly juvenile thing. And also the other thing that I felt like Taylor, in a really impressive way, masterminds the rollout of her albums to the extent, last time, do you remember all those countdowns and pop-ups? And I felt like it was a whole year we had rolling down. And there's something that's just so refreshing about here it is.
Agreed. I loved that about it. It felt much more organic and it felt much more true. And I mean, I don't know, this may be I watched her. Obviously I watch her very closely and I find her so fascinating and I do admire her as an artist and I admire her longevity. But I think she's a brilliant songwriter, and this album tells stories again. It tells, because I love Romeo and Juliet, like that's one of my favorite Taylor Swift songs, and she tells a story. But also in this album, she gets a bit sweary. You know, her voice gets a bit raw. The whole thing. I mean, my daughters don't like it. Chella and Odie felt like they were listening to the same song for 16 tracks.
I understand that. I mean, she doesn't.
Yeah.
She has resisted all temptation to put in any kind of pop banger. Like it's all in it is quite a similar key, and you kind of need to be in the right
mood. But it's a visual album too, though. Like you need to watch it in order, the way it was intended, with the visual aids, and it's all beautifully shot, and it's so dreamscapey, and it reminds me of where I live. And you know, she's not all made up. She's just got her hair in buns with a little bit of not much on, and it's beautifully. It's the right mood for me right now. It's captured
totally.
Lockdown.
Oh, and the weird thing about it is, like, I mean, I don't know where she's writing this. Probably. LA, yeah, but is that LA or Tennessee? Anyway,
LA, I think so. Yeah,
you know, it's coming out in the American summer, but it feels so uniquely suited to this. Rest of the country, but to particularly this Melbourne winter. I had this moment when I was wandering around, and all the trees are stripped of leaves. Everyone's wearing masks. There is this sort of weird mournfulness, but also like it's a weird mournful atmosphere, but it's also. I don't know, there's always also something a bit, like there is a sense of community that also comes out in this time, so it's not all completely bleak. And I was listening to that song, Exile.
Which one? Exile?
The one with, do you say Bon Iver or Bon Iver? What is it?
Bon Iver.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm going to come out and say she probably didn't imagine that she was writing this about Melbourne in the second lockdown. But there is so much. I mean, even the name Exile, like it does feel like Victoria's been exiled from the rest of the countries. And that whole thing of like being back in lockdown. And the lyrics are, I think I've seen this film before. I didn't like the ending. You're not my homeland anymore. So what am I defending? You're my town. Now I'm in exile, seeing you out. I think I've seen this film before. And honestly, I felt like, Taylor, don't know how you've done it. I've never sounded more wanking than this. But anyway, don't know how you've done it.
I love it.
But you have absolutely. It's just one of those moments when a songwriter has absolutely articulated the mood of a particular moment. And she's not even in this particular moment where she is.
I think I've seen this film before, and I didn't like the ending. You're not my homeland anymore. So what am I defending now? You were my town, now I'm in exile, seeing you out. I think I've seen this film before, so I'm leaving out the side door.
But don't worry, there's a little bit of saucy spice in there.
She swears a couple of times.
Yeah, but the song Mad Woman is so clearly aimed at Kanye and Kim. Every lyric may as well be called Fuck You, Kanye and Kim. That song is delicious. It's got a line, women hunt witches too, which I love.
And women like hunting witches too, doing your dirtiest work for you. It's obvious that wanting me dead has really brought you two together.
Aimed clearly at Kim, so don't worry, she hasn't completely, transcended all pettiness, thank God. There is still that song Mad Woman, which I love. I think it's great, and that is just 3 minutes of Kanye West and Kim Kardashian, revenge. It's amazing. All right. Well, God, we've been talking for so long. This will be our longest one ever. Mike's probably fallen asleep, our producer. So, yeah, go and listen to Kanye. Don't listen to Kanye. We didn't even talk about Kanye, poor bugger. But I've deliberately chosen not to bring it up with you because I think he just needs to go away and get better. I don't think he needs anyone else discussing his mental health. I think it's pretty bad. Go and listen to Taylor Swift.
Go for a walk. Go for a walk and listen to it. Put it on your headphones, especially if you're in Melbourne. Rock up, go along, and then just listen to her lament.
Yes.
But also feel nostalgic.
Wear your fucking mask.
Put on a cardigan. You'll understand when you listen to the album.
Yes, track 2, cardigan. And when you watch Indian Matchmaker, just remember it's problematic, but it's okay to also hope that people end up together happy. They can exist together, as is the theme of this podcast. All right, I'll chat to you later.
Talk soon. Bye.
Okay, bye.
This is Emsolation.
All right, well done. You got to the end of that. God, we love a chat, don't we? We love a chat. Hey, just before I do exit your earlobes, I wanted to ask a favour. We're going to be recording another Q&A this week. The last one did very well. You guys want to know some things. If you have a question for myself or for Michael or for both of us, please email it to hello@mrussiano.com, or you can direct message us on Instagram @msolationpodcast. Anything you'd like to know, any personal pop culture, I don't know, whatever comes into your little mind, just send it through and we'll answer your questions, and the pod will come out on Friday. We love a bonus ep week. Thanks again for your attention, for your time, for your love. We appreciate it, and we'll chat soon. Bye.